Hey everyone, this is Josh Phillips with another screencast. Today I'm going to go over things discussed in Chapter 6 of Everything's an Argument, and it's on rhetorical analysis. So, the point of doing a rhetorical analysis is to see, first of all, what exactly the author of the piece is what they're trying to get you, what they're trying to persuade you to do, whether it's to buy something, um, to take their side of an argument, or to maybe vote a certain way. It's going to help you to see exactly what they're trying to get you to do, as well as if they're effective in getting you to do it. Looking at the rhetorical analysis, it's going to help you see, okay, well, this is an emotional appeal. Why did they use it? Are they trying to distract me from something, or are they trying to reinforce some of their logical appeals? Analyzing the logical appeals are going to help you see, um, okay, well, this makes sense. This person obviously did their research, they're trustworthy. It's going to help tie into the ethos of the piece. If you analyze some of those logical appeals and you're saying, well, this doesn't make any sense, why is this in here? It doesn't relate to anything. It's going to kind of take away from the credibility of the author. And overall, doing a rhetorical analysis is going to help you decide whether or not you agree with the purpose of the piece, and it's going to help you determine your position on what they're trying to sell you. So the first thing, um, the point of rhetorical analysis is to find a purpose in the piece. You're going to ask yourself, what is the piece trying to achieve, and how does the author achieve this purpose, and are they effective in doing so? So through analyzing the ethos, pathos, logos, you're going to be able to see, well, did they achieve their point? Am I persuaded? Am I satisfied with how they did it? And through that, you're going to be able to help make your decision better and see if an author effectively persuaded you. Next thing you're going to want to ask is, who is the writer trying to persuade? Are they trying to persuade um, a political party to vote one way or the other? Are they trying to persuade you to buy something? Are they trying to persuade you to agree with their thesis and take their stand in a research paper? And once you know the audience, you're going to be able to more effectively see the different levels of rhetoric that they're using in order to persuade that audience. So, say you're presenting to, if the audience is a group of kids, you're obviously not going to throw out all these scientific, really number heavy stats to make logical appeals. You might want to say, appeal to their emotions and play on some of the pathos of the issues. If you're presenting to a um, a scientific group, you're obviously going to want to throw up all that logos and really appeal to the logical side of things. If you're presenting in a political setting, you're definitely going to want to try to achieve pathos, logos, and ethos to establish your credibility, to make emotional appeals, and to appeal to the logical side as well in order to get the vote. So there's you can appeal to the emotional side, you can appeal to the logical side, and you can try to establish credibility as a writer when you're presenting a piece. And once you walk through all of these different things, you're definitely going to be able to see if they effectively used pathos, ethos, logos, and you're going to be able to see the underlying purposes of why they used that particular rhetoric in that situation. Um, for example, if you're reading and something makes you really upset, that's obviously that the writer is using pathos in that situation. And once you know the purpose of the piece, you can say, well, why did the author want me to feel upset at this particular reason? Are they trying to back up a point? Are they trying to get me to agree with them, which they are? Um, are they trying to distract me from something? What exactly is going on here? So rhetorical analysis, it really ties this rhetoric in with the main purpose and helps you identify, okay, that's why they use this here. Is it appealing to me? Is it appealing to the audience? So when you're looking at pathos, You're going to want to definitely, as you're reading through a piece or you're looking at a piece, you're definitely going to see it, how it makes you feel, and see exactly, tie that back into the purpose and say, okay, well, why did the author want me to feel this way? Um, do I agree with it? Do I not? And that's going to help you make a better decision on which side to take, as well as seeing if that writer was effective in reaching their audience, as well as ethos, which are your ethical appeals, and or not your ethical appeals. This is establishing credibility. And once you're reading through this, if you look at all the logos, the ethos, the way of the writing, the way they organize their piece, and see their target audience and their purpose, you're going to be able to say, oh well, this person provided a sound background of facts and information. I'm going to trust this person. This piece seems trustworthy. Whereas if the facts they're providing don't necessarily come from a good source, or they kind of just seem really random and not relevant to anything, that's going to help lose credibility. Logical appeals, anytime you see a fact stated or something like that that ties back into the purpose of the piece, you're definitely going to be able to have a better understanding of why they use that particular information at that point in time when you're performing rhetorical analysis. You're also going to look at the context of the piece. That's going to help determine exactly a better purpose for the piece, and it's going to see um, if they were effective in using their methodology in achieving persuasion. Also, you're going to want to look at the organization of the piece. You're going to want to see how the facts were presented, how the piece was organized, how it was laid out, and you're going to see if that made sense for that target audience and see if that was effective in persuading their piece. Now, this is going to be a big piece of writing the research paper, because when you're presenting information, you're going to want to perform a rhetorical analysis on your paper, and you're going to want to see, did I effectively persuade the audience in agreeing with me? And you're going to tie all of your rhetoric back into your main purpose, because everything should be used for a reason when you're writing this research paper. You should say, okay, I used pathos here because I wanted to evoke this emotion to back up X, Y, and Z. And through doing this, you're going to be able to see, okay, well, maybe this is irrelevant, I should take that out. Maybe I should provide better information to improve my credibility as an author. And it's definitely going to help you to achieve the maximum potential of your research paper. Now, when you're pulling in sources and research and information, you're definitely going to want to perform a rhetorical analysis on those as well to see exactly why that piece of research should be used or shouldn't be used in writing your paper. Um, if one sentence from that paper you put it in your report, but the exact opposite that you're trying to be that you're trying to prove was used in that research, it might not be the best source, because if somebody goes and looks at that source, they can see, oh well, this is saying um, that global warming isn't real, but you took out an irrelevant sentence and put it in your research paper to try to get people to understand the effects of global warming. That's definitely going to knock down your credibility, and you're going to lose a lot of your effectiveness with that. So, looking at the main three things of rhetoric, um, ethos or pathos, ethos, and logos, I'm going to take a look at three different assignments that were posted. The first one is by Kathleen Verkamp, and she posted Mission 1 Level 3 and Mission 3 Level 3. And I'm also going to be taking a look at CDUSA 05 Level 3 Mission 2 when seeing how their pieces effectively tied into what Lunsford was talking about in Chapter 6 of Everything's an Argument for rhetorical analysis. So she points out that in academic writing, it is important to use emotional appeals along with the facts. Audience tend to listen to emotional over just the plain facts, but you must be careful. Sometimes your words may divide an audience. So through performing your rhetorical analysis, you're going to be able to see, why did I use that emotional appeal where I did? Or why did this author use that emotional appeal where they did? Um, Through that, you're going to be able to see how it ties into the purpose of the piece and if it was effectively and justifiably used at that point in time. Um, Say you say something that you are trying to get to be an emotional argument, but there's a fine line in that argument whether it could split people one way or another. Now, although it might win half of your audience over, you could just as easily lose the other half, which you want to avoid. So when you're performing a rhetorical analysis and you see that emotional appeal, you're going to ask yourself, does this divide my audience? And is it effective in persuading them to see the purpose of my piece? One way that you can use rhetorical, or that you can use pathos in your rhetorical outlook, is that you can tie people together. So, for example, she points out that President Obama, after Osama bin Laden was killed, he made references to 9/11 and to the reasons that why we're at war and why we're fighting against terror. Through doing this, he brings together a large divided political sides. You've got Democrats and Republicans, but they're both resentful towards 9/11, and by doing this, he ties in the entire audience, and um, he brings together these two parties, and to be able to see his the purpose of him making this speech. If they necessarily don't agree with Obama, they're going to look past that because he appealed to their emotions and their patriotism, or however you want to say that. Um, so Kathleen also points out that Lunsford suggests that you use emotional appeals to sustain an argument. This can help make logical claims more memorable. So when you're doing your rhetorical analysis, you're going to want to see, does this emotional appeal tie into anything? Emotional appeals can be used to back up logical claims and make them stand out more, or they could be used to distract you from something that the author may not want you to focus on. So by doing the rhetorical analysis, you can see exactly why the author used this and if it was effective. If they used it to reinforce their facts, you might say, well, that was a really good use of it. If you see that it was to distract you from something else, you're going to say, I don't know about this guy. He seems a little untrustworthy. And it's going to take away from the next aspect, which is ethos. So, next one is CDUSA 05 Mission 2 on ethos. And to test the credibility of the author, you're going to want to ask yourself, is the author being biased? Can I trust what they are saying? Is the person credible on the issue? So through doing your rhetorical analysis, you're going to be able to see exactly these questions, and you're going to see if the author effectively used them in their writing, or if you as an author effectively used them in your writing. Through rhetorical analysis, it's definitely going to point out all the aspects that point to that writer's credibility or take away from it. So after you perform your rhetorical analysis, you're going to see all the points that backed up their trustworthiness and all the points that took away from it. And that's going to help weighing your decision and ultimately seeing the effectiveness of the piece, which is the main point of rhetorical analysis. She also makes a reference to, let me find it here. Somewhere in here she says that as a writer, you're gonna want to make the audience like you, and so commercials that use public figures usually devise an ethical appeals because of the figure's fame, and which leads viewers to perceive them with authority and credibility. So when you use public figures in like an ad or something, it's going to make the readers associate that ad with that person, and if they're well liked, then it's more likely that they like your product. Um, Now, when you're doing a rhetorical analysis and you see, oh well, this famous person said I should buy X, you're going to be like, well, just because they paid this person a lot of money to come on here and say that I should buy it, is that really what should persuade me to buy this product, or should I look at more important information and other aspects of the product? So you want the audience to like you. It's definitely going to help you buy into the purpose of the piece and persuade you one way or the other. But you also want to look at uh, the effectiveness of building that credibility. So if you say, "Oh, I researched a lot, so you should listen to me," well, you researched a lot, so I guess I should listen to you. But I mean, as me as a reader, I'm going to want you to have to prove it and show me that you can be trusted and that I should take your stance in an argument. So this also ties into a lot of the things discussed in chapter 6 for rhetorical analysis. Um, Through providing the whole rhetorical analysis, you're going to want to definitely take a look at the logical and emotional appeals to see if it plays into the ethos of the piece, if you trust the piece, and if you want to take that stance. Lunsford says on page 100, it should come to no surprise readers believe writers who seem honest, wise, and trustworthy. So in analyzing the effectiveness of an argument, look for these traits. So one other example that she uses is Charlie Sheen from Two and a Half Men, to try to associate a hard-working or hard-drinking, womanizing bad boy to a Fiat. Now this would be a good example of they're trying to. I mean, Charlie Sheen. Some people like him, some people hate him. But to this car that really isn't known as like a sports car or anything like that. So they're trying to associate his character from Two and a Half Men to this car, and through rhetorical analysis, you're going to be able to see, was that effective, and did it achieve the purpose of making me want a Fiat. The last aspect of rhetorical analysis is the logical appeals. So on page 103, Lunsford says, when you analyze explicit claims like these, you look at how they are supported by good reasons and reliable evidence. A lengthy essay may in fact contain a series of claims, each developed to support an even larger point. So in addition to this, you'll also need to examine the quality of the information presented in an argument, assessing how accurately such information is reported, how conveniently it's displayed. So looking at their logical appeals is going to help you to understand if the person is trustworthy and if you want to buy into their purpose and if their piece is effective. So Kathleen says in here that she gives an example of Gore providing facts and testimonies about people who agree with the argument of global warming, making himself and his argument seem more credible. So through providing all these facts, testimonies, and statistics in, say, something like an inconvenient truth, it's definitely going to help to see, oh, well, this guy definitely knows what he's talking about. He's done his research. Even if you're somebody who doesn't like Al Gore, you see the facts and you're going to, well, you might still deny them, but it's kind of hard to once they're presented to you right in your face. It's definitely going to say, well, this guy definitely knows more about the subject than I do, because I haven't performed these tests. I haven't gathered this information. He has, not me. He seems credible. Also in here, the first thing when creating an argument using hard evidence is to gather the facts. So once you go through this piece and you see all the facts that they used, well, that's the hard evidence. That's the logical appeals that they're trying to make to you. And once you have all these facts listed, you can combine them with how effective the ethos and pathos was used in the piece in order to see if it was effective in persuading you to see the purpose in the piece. Um, Now, logos is going to help establish ethos, and pathos are going to help establish ethos or logos as well. Like it's either going to help drive them in or take away from them. So basically, by performing this rhetorical analysis, you definitely want to take a good hard look at the pathos, ethos, and logos. Um, for pathos, you're going to ask yourself, um, why did they use this emotion? Did it force me to look away from something, or did it force me to see the side of something? Did it invoke emotion? Was it a good use? In ethos, you're going to ask yourself if the source was honest or if you felt like that the information was trustworthy. And in logos, you're going to want to look to see if the stats were relative and if they were well linked to provide a credible source and help you see whether or not a piece was effective. So definitely when you're doing your research paper, you're going to want to perform a rhetorical analysis on your own paper to see if your audience will buy into the purpose of your piece. And if you're doing research, you're definitely going to want to read through all of this again and see uh, if that's a good source to use, if it is really supporting your claim or not. Once again, this has been a summarization of Chapter 6 in of Everything's an Argument, Rhetorical Analysis. For a good bulleted list of points to look through when you're doing your rhetorical analysis, go to pages 92 and 93 in Everything's an Argument. And definitely do a rhetorical analysis on your research paper when you're done writing to see if it effectively captivates your audience and lets them see your point of the research paper and if it achieves its purpose. Thanks.